Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today's presentation on commercial existing buildings and the energy code. This webinar is recorded and it's available on the Code Adoption Toolkit and with all of our other previous recordings and other resources as well. So feel free to check that out. If there are any issues with audio, please write me in the chat. And my name is Erica DeLallo, and I'm a project manager for Noresco. This series is sponsored by the Colorado Energy Office with training materials created by Shum Soda Associates. So Gil and I have been working with the Colorado Energy Office for a couple years now to provide trainings just like this one. And we only have one more session left on, it's just a Q&A session. So bring your questions, any questions you have. Gil and Hope will be answering any questions that you bring, as well as if there's any standardized questions that they've heard in the past. So definitely join us. It's likely that we'll add more trainings here, but those are to be determined. So in addition to these webinars, we do also have tailored group trainings or offer technical assistance for jurisdictions that are updating iCodes. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions on that. And then most of you do know about our Code Adoption Toolkit. And if you haven't, please check it out. All of the resources are available. We've got troubleshooting guides, benefits of turning energy code, cost analysis, whole slew of information, along with all of our previous recordings, as I said. And then the Helpline is the newest this year. And it is basically an opportunity for anyone in the state of Colorado to submit a ticket on any questions that they have, whether they're a plans examiner and they're reviewing something, or a building inspector in the field, or just an industry professional working on addressing code requirements, or even a homeowner that's trying to learn a little bit more about navigating the code. So feel free to use that helpline. I'll post a link in the chat so that you have access to that. And if you want to bookmark it, you feel free to do so. So just a couple housekeeping items. You know, we do want to encourage questions, so please use that Q&A function. Gil, you know, I'll let you know at the end of the presentation, I'll read the questions, but if you want to address the questions throughout, you know, feel free to do so as well. There's also the ability to raise your hand and ask a question, and Gil can answer those questions at the end. Lastly, there will be a survey window that pops up following the webinar. If you could please take a minute to provide that feedback, you know, tell us what you want to keep learning about, what trainings you want to hear, different things like that. You know, we're here as a resource to you all, and we take what feedback you give us to inform future webinars. So that's all that to say that, you know, today we have Gil Rossmiller as a presenter, and he has been in the construction industry for over 40 years. He was a chief building official for Parker from 2003 to 2016. He served on IRC, plumbing, mechanical, energy committees from the national level for many code additions going back, looks like, to 2009, and is now on the Residential Energy Committee and Correlation Committee for the 2024 IECC. So did I get that right, Gil?
Sounds close enough.
All right, great. Well, I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen. If Gil, you want to take it from here.
All right, great, thank you. All right, get all my stuff set up here. And yeah, so the 2024 residential energy is cruising right along. It's part of the standard process this time around. So it's a little bit different. It's still going to be a code. It's not going to be a standard. It's still going to be a code, just a process by which it is. Come next month, and maybe we'll have a few questions about what's going on with that. I'll have a better idea of what's happening. Anyway, so existing buildings, commercial existing buildings today. Let me just get.
Gail, it looks like we have one raised hand before we dive. Scott.
I got to bring up my. Oh yeah.
Scott, if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry, I just couldn't get my sound up, but I'm good now.
Okay.
Oh, Scott, awesome. Good job. Very good. All right. Very good. So I got my participants up now. I can see hands. Very good. Okay. Good enough. So commercial buildings, yeah, just ask questions whenever. And we'll handle them as we go. Don't let me go past something you want to know, and I haven't talked enough about it. So I'm going to look at it, Chapter 5. That's what Chapter 5 is in the Energy Code. So we've got Chapter 5 that deals with residential, which we dealt with last month, and we got Chapter 5 for commercial, which is what we're talking about today. So we'll go through all the different pieces. We've got historical type buildings and additions, alterations, and changes of occupancy here, and we'll talk about all of them, and maintenance and all kinds of stuff. So it's all or nothing, yes? All or nothing. Yeah, no, not so much. There are things. That's pretty much everything, but not much. There's usually some workarounds that we can work with. So yeah, so it's never all or nothing. Bottom line, we don't want to make the building any worse than it was. Okay, that's kind of this. It's not really said in here. It gets a little bit better in the 21, and we're going to make it even better in the 24. But clearly, we're not making it any worse. Okay, that's kind of the overriding statement. There's really no code that says that specifically, but that's just kind of the overriding thing. May not always make it better. But we can certainly make it not any worse than it was. So start out with this right off at the very beginning. It deals with existing buildings, kind of the charging statement here. And it's pretty much the same as all the other codes, as long as we were in good shape. Okay? To begin with, you don't have to do anything. Right? An existing building or building system lawfully in existence at the time of adoption of this code, we're good to go. Okay? And kind of another overriding theme here is, with very few exceptions, and we'll talk about those, if you don't touch it, you don't have to deal with it. So if I'm not touching a piece of that thermal envelope or whatever it happens to be, I don't have to bring it up to the Energy Code. It's another kind of overriding piece that is in the code. It just doesn't, why would you come right out and say it in black and white, right? Yeah. Yeah, so it doesn't require anything, right? Removal, requirement, abandonment, alteration of anything that we're keeping up to shape, that we're maintaining in an existing building. So unless we're starting to mess with it, unless we're starting to do some remodel or an alteration or put on addition, change of occupancy we'll talk about, that can get pretty dicey. And especially if we're going from unconditioned space that's never been conditioned before. That gets tough. That's probably one of the tougher ones. So maintenance, we deal with maintenance, and we'll get into repairs later too. Yeah, parts of thereof shall be maintained in right, safe and sanitary condition. It's up to the building owners to make sure that happens. Okay, so as long as it's maintained, right there, right. Systems are required by this code shall be maintained in accordance with the code edition in which they were installed. So as long as they're still working, as long as we're keeping them maintained as to what they were supposed to do in the very beginning, whenever that was, we're good to go. Just because they've got, I just saw some pictures on LinkedIn of brick boilers. Brick boilers. They're now have been in service for 107 years. I don't suspect they're exceptionally efficient, but they've been maintained and if they're cool looking, but there isn't any reason why they shouldn't be. Shouldn't be there and shouldn't continue to work as long as they're safe, maintained with the coat that they were put in on, we're good to go. Kind of the basics. Yeah. So when we do with new and replacement stuff, there are going to be some exceptions that we'll go through, but anything that's materials that are permitted by the code or for new construction, we're good to go. Yeah, like materials for repair, even though it may not be today's code. Generally speaking, it will be. You can do your repairs, it doesn't, but you can't do, let's see. So Jacob, what do you got? Touching. I love it. Touching in quotes, right? An envelope assembly seems like it can be subjective. Absolutely, it can be, Jacob, you bet. For example, is removal and plus replacement of the interior drywall alone altering the wall assembly, or does that wall assembly be brought to code? Absolutely not. So generally speaking, it gets clearer and clearer in our coming up codes. But if I take the sheetrock off, okay, and there's insulation in that wall, okay, we're done. Move on with life, okay? Let's say that I have to take that sheetrock off because it's fire damaged. It's fire. Oh, well, that's a repair. That's not new construction. That's a repair. Place caught on fire, I have to gut it. As long as it goes back and doesn't make it any worse than it was, we're good to go. If there are some opportunities for improvement, many times folks are wanting to do that, as long as they don't have to make the wall thicker, okay? If I only got a 2x4 wall as an example, maybe you put an R15 bat instead of the R11 that was in there. It still fits in a 3.5-inch stud space. So yeah, just removing the sheetrock, no. Now it's part of my thermal envelope. I take the sheetrock off and there's no insulation at all. Now we have an opportunity that really isn't going to set anybody back. By putting in some, R13 bats or something in that cavity. It's just going to make it perform better anyway. Okay. Good question. Good question. All right. So historical buildings. So what the heck is an historical building? Well, pretty much if anybody says it's historical, it is, but it can't be just the owner saying, yes, it's old. Yeah, so here's the definition and how the Energy Code describes it, okay? It's actually listed on either the National Register or Historic Places. The keeper or is designated, this is, the one that's the most popular, right? Designated as historic under applicable state or local laws. So if the jurisdiction happens to have your city, town, your municipality has an historical district that they've said, hey, we need to preserve the every building and every place and everything that's inside this district, then it's historical. Okay. Yeah, so it's certified as contributing resource within a national registered place or state designated area. Works. It all works just fine. Okay. There are plenty of get out of jail free cards, as you'd say, when it deals with historic places. And we'll talk a little bit about that. This is what needs to happen though. Okay, just because it's historic doesn't get it completely scot-free, okay? So what we're getting as the code official is something that says, if we do X, it would really threaten the historic form, fabric, or function of the building. We clearly get that with things on the outside. So the exterior is usually many times the number one piece. They want to preserve what it physically looks like because that's the historic piece of it. And then there's plenty of things on the inside of buildings that are part of the historic structure. They're considered historic, whether it be the stairs or the floors or the walls, or maybe it's, I don't know, carvings or whatever it might be. Just the arrangement itself. Just how it's laid out might be historic. But that's a report that, you know, the registered design professional does, or a representative from the historical district themselves that will actually provide that. And then you as the code official get to decide, is that it? Does that work? Yeah, then it's it. Yeah, so what does it mean? Yeah, it means you comply with what you can. Generally speaking, most of the ones that I deal with that are historic, and there's a lot of them, there's plenty I deal with all the time. You know, commercial buildings, absolutely. They're generally doing what they can because 9 times out of 10, these older historic buildings that they're dealing with are solid brick a lot of times and leak like a sieve. Generally, they want to try to get them tighter as much as they can. New windows, if they possibly can, to get ones that look historic on the outside is a big deal. Certainly, you know, upgraded electrical and HVAC systems go into these things. Thermal envelope, good stuff. You know, thing that we've got to remember, especially with solid brick places, that solid brick has been allowed to breathe on both directions for a very long time. Okay, even it's been a conditioned space. I'm not talking about an old barn that, you know, or something that's never been, or a warehouse that they're, you know, turning into living space now. I'm talking about buildings that were conditioned before and starting to put a bunch of insulation on the inside, especially to start thinking about vapor retarders and all that. That can get pretty sticky. It could affect how the building actually performs and actually how it works. So you're going to get guys a lot smarter than me involved in doing, you know, large restorations like that, so that they're not, you know, affecting how that building performs, its ability to dry and where the moisture is going, things of that nature. Okay, so it's not always that simple, and the code doesn't really talk about that. I mean, we have building science stuff that's absolutely working into the code, but with those that, you know, when, especially in existing buildings, we have to keep that in the back of our minds. Make sure we're not doing more harm than good. Okay, additions, they're easy. Well, maybe not that easy, right? Yeah, so additions, like brand new. The addition itself is just like new construction. So however it is they want to find compliance, got all the different options, that's what they do. It's like a brand new building. Even if they put an addition on to an historic building, the addition's not historic. It's brand new. They may want to make it look like it's historic, but it's brand new. It's a new addition. So a lot of them try to tell you that, right? Yeah, the existing, you know, unaltered components, not required. That overarching piece here. So if you don't touch it, you don't have to deal with it. We're in good shape. As with anything, right? And the additions itself can't create an unsafe or hazardous conditioning or overload existing building systems. When you deal with commercial buildings, typically you've got design professional involved, and they're not going to do that. Yeah, they're not. They won't consciously, you know, overburden or overload any existing system, whether it be the fire suppression or whether it be, you know, water supply or sanitary stuff or structure or any of that thing. You know, we're getting that stuff anyway. So yeah, if it's an issue, it complies. Okay. Yeah, so we've got different ways that we can deal with that. So the addition itself can comply, or if you so choose, the addition plus the existing building as one single structure. It's a designer choice. Okay? Yeah, so basically it's like we just get back into the code sections that we do. So it's, let's see, Amanda, what do we got? For upgrading windows, has anyone experienced using the Alpine Winsert? Oh, it's a Winsert, huh? I don't know, I'll have to do the link. Yeah. I don't know. In Winsert, so there comes some sort of an insert that goes inside the existing frame, maybe, huh? Don't know. let's see. For additions, how do we approach central systems? Central chilled water system that may be outdated, supplying, right? Also, if we adopted an all-electric new construction code, that makes it interesting. Does that apply to additions? And if so, how would we address central boiler systems? Well, any kind of central type system, whether it's chilled water systems, boilers, any of that kind of stuff. We're going to get back to this statement here, where right here. Additions shall not create an unsafe or hazard or overload existing building systems. Okay. So I think what you're asking is, let's say that the boiler that's in there, just for fun, okay, is large enough. It will not be overloaded by putting on the addition. It's got plenty of BTUs, plenty of gallons per minute, and can just add some radiators and we're good to go. Okay. All the parts that we're adding to it need to be new. Okay, so needs to be as if it were new construction. It doesn't mean that the boiler that's there has to meet code, because it's what? It's existing non-conforming. Now, if they have to replace the boiler because it's not big enough to do the addition and the existing building, then the new boiler would meet the new efficiency requirements based on the mechanical chapter and efficiency. As far as your all electric piece of it, don't know what your amendments say and don't know if it anticipated what would happen if we put an addition on. Okay, I don't know if there's any language in there that talks about, well, if we put an addition on, the addition's got to be all electric. Or if you start using systems from the existing stuff, it's got to be all electric now too. Don't know what it says. Don't know what it is, right? And what it would read. And if you haven't dealt with the existing building piece of it in the electric new construction, and you wanted to, that's something you should take a look at and see. There's going to be some of that. I'm on the residential existing building committee for the 24. So I chaired that particular committee, and we're doing some changes there, good changes. And I don't know what's happening in the commercial side. I wish I could say, but I don't. Okay. Hopefully that answered to it. And then Alpine, Winsert, it says from Todd, says, hey, it's a commercial storefront. Window systems need to be a very predictable. Open and historic is generally not very predictable. That's true. Yeah, unless they're making it to the size, right? Yeah. Not only is it the size, but is it square? Is it on plumb, right? Is it racked? We're gonna have to deal with the opening a little bit. Yeah, a lot of stuff that's happening in that remodel arena there. Hopefully that answers your questions there. Let's see. So, okay. So what we're doing here is the different ways that an addition and or an addition plus an existing building can happen. Okay. We go through all these different sections. 402 is just our envelope requirements. It's all different ways you can do it. Mechanical systems, it's just all the mechanical systems that are new, service, water, heating, electrical, and then we get into this section here. 5022, it says this shall. So the verbiage in the codes, it says the addition or the addition and plus the existing shall comply with these sections. Okay. Indo Windows, another product. So Cameron's got another product in there for you, Amanda, for Windows. So prescriptive. So we're going to go through a few of these sections here so we kind of understand what this is all about. So this first section talks about vertical fenestration. Okay, so that's in that chapter 4. It says, hey, if the new fenestration area that results in a total building fenestration area less than or equal to specified in this section we're good to go. We don't have to worry about it. Okay. So what this is saying is this is 1.5 is ComCheck. I believe that's the correct. And then that's UA, I believe, for that. Or maybe that's the 40% piece. I think that's the lighting one. Somebody can look that up, make sure I got it correct. And then performance. Okay. So what I'm saying is that they're looking at the total building fenestration. So what you might be able to do is get away with a little bit more fenestration on the addition, because when you add it with the building, it's still less than 30%. And that's what this is saying. This is the 30% thing, or you can get up to 40%. That's what must be the, the daylighting control piece here. Then it goes on to say additions with vertical that result in a total that greater than what's allowed here, or additions. Oh, now here comes the addition part. I guess we spoke too early, huh? Or additions that exceed the fenestration, 30%, shall comply with this 402441 for the addition only. Okay. Yeah, additions that result in a total exceeding that, you need to go to CO 407. So what this is, the 40%. This is, can I go to ComCheck? Because ComCheck allows you as much window as you want. Don't know if you guys realize that, but when you do the total performance or total, I can't remember what they call it, but it's ComCheck. We'll get to it. I'll try to remember it. ComCheck will let you do 100% glazing. You'd have to have really, really good glass to do it, but you could trade it off. And 407 is the performance. Total performance path. Same kind of language here for skylights. Same exact piece. You can only get so much skylight, right? 3 and 5%. Then you're doing, lighting controls. And then if you get down into here, you can trade it off with ComCheck or performance. That's what that's about. Mechanical systems, kind of talked about that a little bit here. New mechanical systems and equipment that are part of the addition and serve the building heating, cooling should need to comply with 403. So again, anything that we're adding into the addition's got to meet it. Yeah, oh good, thank you, Erica, is 407. What I was having trouble with, this is the ComCheck, but I can't remember the title to that. I guess I could open this up. What the heck? Why leave everybody in suspense? Oh, see, that's not what I wanted. That's the 21. This is the one I wanted. Let's see. So when we come back and do additions, yeah, this for, yes, the component performance alternative. That's what I was trying to think of. That's ComCheck. Just so you know. Okay, minimize. All right, back to the presentation. Yeah, building mechanical systems, they've all got to comply. Anything that's new has got to comply. Any new service water heating? Any new service water heating is going to comply. So even if there's enough hot water, water heaters in the existing buildings, just all the new piping, anything that's going on there, that's going to need to comply. So if we're adding public labs, for instance, that's the one where the piping gets really short. Probably going to put in a recirc system of some sort in order to do that, because it'll more than likely be way too far away from the water heater itself. Yes, a water circ or recirc line is considered the source of hot water when you're dealing with efficient hot water piping. Lighting. And then lighting with an addition, it's going to comply as one, right? The addition itself, or you can do the whole ball of wax altogether. Either it's designer choice, whichever they choose to do. 9 times out of 10 is just the addition. Just the addition. Exterior, same thing, whatever I'm doing with the outside. If I'm adding anything new to the outside, it's got to comply, part of the addition, or we can glom it all together and do the same. Addition alone or existing and the addition comply as a single building. Designer choice, whatever they choose to do. Perfectly acceptable. Let's see. Oh, prescriptive. Yeah, in-ground pools, new pools and spas. Go right back. If it's a new pool and spa, go right back to 404. Right, it was as if it's brand new. Alterations, which is the one that gets tougher. That's the one that gets tough. It's like that was one of our very first questions. Okay, well, let's see what it has to say. Okay, so yeah, it says got to be comply with 503, which is where we're at. Yeah, anything that's for new construction. Okay, so if we touch it, we're going to put it back as if it were brand new. You cannot, right? Alterations cannot make the building less conforming. That's kind of a key. This is all in the code. Alterations, we'll use the new construction provisions. Absolutely correct. Depending on what piece you're touching. Again, the code just repeats itself. Says, hey, I'm going to comply with unaltered portions. Don't have to comply. You don't have to worry about it. And of course, you can't create anything unsafe. Okay. For that. And then if I'm using ASHRAE 90.1, you don't have to go back into the pieces that we just talked about. You can actually go to ASHRAE if you wanted. I haven't seen anybody do that on an alteration yet. Not that you couldn't, you certainly could. Exceptions, so exceptions. So we don't have to worry about storm windows over existing. We don't have to worry about those. So here's the piece we talked about a little bit earlier, okay? And so walls, floors, ceilings exposed are filled with insulation. So it says that if I expose it and it's filled with insulation, we're good to go. But if I take that sheetrock off, like the young man was asking earlier, and there's no insulation in it, now what do we do? Well, the code is very silent on that. The intent, and I can tell you personally that this is correct, is that you just fill the cavity, okay? There's nothing in the code that says I got to bring it up to what the prescriptive is. If I'm doing an alteration and I just happen to open up a wall and it needs to get filled, we're done. Just fill it up and move on with life, okay? Unless I'm building a brand new wall, it's really tough. Especially, I don't know, let's take it one step further. How many live in a climate zone where exterior insulation is required, continuous insulation is required, and I'm replacing 6 feet of exterior wall? Are you going to make them put exterior insulation on the outside? Give me a break. That's not what the code's for, I can tell you, right? Let's see, Miles, for everyone, just something interested for those who may want to check it out. There's some movement in the market. Prefabricated exterior energy retrofits. Fascinating. Prefabricated pad, laser cut, glued in place. Fascinating. Oh, Miles, thank you for that. That's awesome. Oh, Netherlands. Oh, cool. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Never heard of it. Good for you, Miles. Very nice. I'll have to, I should probably click on that, and that way I'll have it. Yeah, just go back. Okay, very good. All right. Yeah, so that deals with this this cavity piece of it. If we're just doing a roof recover, we're going to talk about repairs here and how it deals with that too here in a few slides. Air barriers for roof recover and replacement, not if not working on the rest of the building. So if I'm just doing a roof, I don't have to worry about if it's airtight or not. Okay. And I'm not doing anything else to the building. I mean, generally those things are reasonably airtight. And then surface applied film, reduced for solar heat gain, coefficients for a single pane. So if we're just putting on a film, we don't have to worry about it. We're in good shape. Don't have to comply with the code. Okay. This is the one that gets toughy. This is a toughie. Change in space conditioning. Yeah. It literally throws a book at you. Right? Non-conditioned and low energy spaces becoming conditions are required to comply with the code as for new construction. It doesn't get much plainer than that. Okay. There are 2 exceptions. Okay. 2 exceptions. You could use ComCheck, and it says your proposed UA is not greater than 110% of the target UA, meaning that when you get the ComCheck, it says it can fail by 10%. That's essentially what that means. It can fail by 10%. And the same thing if I do performance. It can cost 10% more than the reference design and still pass. So it cuts you a little bit of slack. And believe me, if you're going from unconditioned to conditioned space, you're going to need every little bit of help you can get. Yeah, absolutely. That is that's a big change. Right? And this is the only place where the energy code, literally, they throw the book at you. This is the one spot. Conditioned to unconditioned. And that does not change in the future. I'm just telling you. In the future, the 21 and the 24, nobody's cutting any slack there. That's going to pretty much remain the same. So now when we're dealing with alterations, it's like new buildings that are part of an alteration. It says, hey, you're going to comply with the sections here, right? Go back into the chapter 4, it's going to comply. Then it says here, where the existing building exceeds my fenestration area limitations back in 40241, prior to the alteration, the building is exempt from that section. Since we've looked at this section several times, so we'll pull it up real quick. Pretty sure that's the one that says you can't be more than 40% and so if the existing building has more windows than you're supposed to, more fenestration, and you're not adding any more, you're good. You don't have to worry about it. It says, hey, you're exempt from it. So let's go ahead and, I don't know, let's look at 4024. Let's see, let's 40241 just for fun. Yeah, 40241. Yeah, it gets you to that 30%, and then you can go to 40%, which is part of 40241. But then you're putting in daylight responsive controls. You've got different pieces that you've got to meet for that. And if you got more than 40%, it's a performance building. Just to let you know, that's always been the case, and that will always stay the case. More than 40%, you're going into 407. Roof replacement. This is something that came into 21 that actually is going to help quite a bit. This is what it says in the 18 right here. You're going into right shall comply or 407 where the existing roof assembly is part of the thermal envelope contains insulation entirely above the roof deck. Now, the problem with that is that this gets very difficult when you're going back into these sections, okay? So there's ComCheck, that's the UA, and that's the R value table, that's the total UA, and that's ComCheck. and then there's performance, right? It essentially says right there, and rightly so, that was how it ended up. I don't believe that was ever the intent, but that's how it went in. That if there was only an R20 on the roof and you have to have an R30, boom, I got to go to an R30 unless I can trade myself off somehow or another through, UA calculation or U calculation, a UA calculation or performance. This is what was added in the 21. In the same section, it adds this sentence: in no case shall the R value of roof insulation be reduced or the U factor of the roof assembly be increased as part of the roof replacement. What does that say to you guys? What do you think? What was the intent of adding that language? I'm going to have to look at the person's reason statement that did that, but I can make a pretty educated guess. Yeah, and the intent is there's plenty of times when you're dealing with flat roofs and you try to increase the insulation on top of that, it causes all kinds of havoc with roof drainage and roof curbs and flashing and things that just go way beyond what the energy code was trying to do, okay? I think here we were just trying to say, hey, we're not going to make it any worse than it was, clearly. And if we can make it better, wouldn't that be awesome? Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of lenient on that. Most of the time they end up using ComCheck to end up, reducing it, or leave it alone is right. Keep it as it is or improve it. Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm with you. I'm with you there. If it leaks, you got to replace it, right? If it leaks, you got to replace it. Just had its service life. You got to do something more than nothing. But if we can make it better, awesome. But we're not going to make it worse. Okay. Vertical fenestration. So here we're getting into the alterations piece, and it kind of goes back into the addition here. It says for the addition results in an area less than or equal to the section we looked at here. That's our 30%. We can go through and do the math if we want. For 407, greater than 401, we can go to 411, which is the 40% piece. Is this also for a roof? If the roof has more insulation than code, it has to be replaced replaced as it was. The rest of the energy systems were designed for the thicker insulation. Alan, absolutely correct. And that could be another piece, right? I hadn't thought of that, Alan. I don't run into many flat roofs that have more insulation than what was required or currently required at the time, right? But that's where this would come into play. I would absolutely agree with you, Alan, even though this isn't in the 18, if they've got an R50 up there, okay? And it's like, oh, well, the code only requires an R30, so we're gonna, not put all that back on. Incorrect, because you're absolutely correct. All those systems and everything is designed with an R50 roof. We're not gonna make it any less, so absolutely correct. Yep, if it's got more than code, you gotta place what's there. Very good, that's a good point, very good point. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is a good one to read because it gets kind of goofy. It says the addition of vertical fenestration results in a total building fenestration area greater than my 30% shall comply with the if it's less than 40% for that space adjacent to the new fenestration only. So that means only the room or space where I've added the new window do I have to deal with daylight controls and all that other stuff that comes in between 30 and 40%. Then it goes on to say if it's more than that, then we're going to go to ComCheck or the performance. Then there's this exception down here that talks about, hey, provided the vertical fenestration area is not changed using the same vertical fenestration in the standard reference design as the building prior to the alteration, we can use in the performance path. Same kind of language ends up here for skylight area. Same thing, just different sections, 3 and 5%, and goes through and gives you the same exceptions that it did in vertical fenestrations. Heating and cooling systems, hey, if it's new, hey, comply with the mechanical stuff. Go to chapter 4, chapter 403. Economizers, same thing. So if I do a roof replacement, all I'm doing is, the RTU, the rooftop unit, man, it's old and we need to get a new bad boy up there. Well, I can tell you right now, most places in Colorado, you got to have an economizer. So the new one's going to have an economizer. And it's going to have a control that knows what to do with the economizer. Yeah. Oh, David, very good. I'm so glad you're here. Yes, I wrote that if extra roof was originally used to trade off other envelope, the roof can't prescript is very good. Very good. There it is. Well, see, somebody's keeping me on track here. Good job, David. Good job. All right. Surface water heaters, water heating system, same thing. Anything that's new, going to comply with new. As if it was new. Repairs. Repairs can be a lot of different things. Yes? Yeah, what's a repair? Well, it says the reconstruction or renewal of any part of an existing building for the purpose of its maintenance or to correct damage. Yeah, so I don't know, did I have a picture? It looked like a roof had been torn off here earlier, like a tornado or something. It sounded like a repair to me. You know, they weren't doing an alteration or putting on an addition. They're fixing the roof because, high winds tore it off. That's a repair. Put it back the way it was and move on with life. Is there an opportunity to make some improvements? Go for it. But it's not something the code official can make them do. Put it back the way it was. It's just simply a repair. So we maintenance. Yeah, it just talks about maintenance, and we went through that earlier. Same exact section. Work on non-damaged components that necessary for the required repair of damaged components that shall be considered part of the repair and are not subject to the requirements for alterations in this chapter. So yeah, when the roof got ripped off, all the connectors and everything got ripped off with it. Yeah, exactly, Heather, very good. So what if two walls and the roof blew away? My roof has any holes, so I'm referring to the new roof, okay? That works for me, Don. Oh my gosh. So the idea is that section right there, Heather, I think works with it. Non-damaged. Well, I would say damaged. So the two walls that blew away, yeah, it was part of it. It was just repairing it or putting it back, right? So there might be. So in order to replace the roof, I had to take all the sheetrock off on the top 3 or 4 feet of the walls, or because the roof blew off, the sheetrock got damaged, so I had to take it off. The insulation inside, it got wet, so it's not good anymore, so I got rid of it. But once it all dried out, everything was fine. So we just put it back the way it was, perfectly acceptable. Yeah, and then routine maintenance. Any routine maintenance is perfectly fine. And of course, anything, if we're doing with ASHRAE, you don't have to go to the code. Just go right into the ASHRAE and they give you direction. Let's see. Following shall be considered the repairs. Okay. Let's see, Jose, should a repair mean something that is other than voluntary construction? Well, I would agree with that statement. That doesn't sound unreasonable. Yeah, it's just something that we've got to either maintain because it broke, the motor, the bearings went on the motor, and now I got to replace the motor so the furnace still works, right? Or the pump, right? It's just simply a repair or maintenance. But yeah, if something breaks or, a car drives into the side of a building. Ever had that happen? Yeah. Now I got to repair the building. Yeah. Let's see, Don, let's see. My roof needs routine maintenance every 25 years with a new roof. Okay. Okay with me. We just kind of went through that, right? So roofs, I mean, roofs are a big deal, especially with commercial buildings, because 9 times out of 10, they're flat, right? And so the whole intent there is you go by the code. What did it say? If I'm doing a roof repair, it in the 21 didn't change a lot, unfortunately. The 24, I can guarantee you that's going to change quite a bit. It's changed in the residential existing building, I can tell you that, at least in our first session. I can't imagine it's not happening in the commercial side too, okay, to make it really, really clear, okay? And yeah, I don't know if you're calling routine maintenance a replacement. No, I would say that's a replacement, not a repair. Yeah, routine maintenance. I need to replace it every 25 years. I don't know. I guess they try anything, don't they? Let's see. Roof repairs, kind of the same thing that we went through earlier when we dealt with repairs. Let's see. We should have 10%. Maybe that's change of occupancy. Oh, I got to keep moving. I'm not going to have time. Change of occupancy. Okay. This is really good, right? Hey, anything that increases demand for fossil fuel or electrical energy shall comply with the IECC. Well, you get to decide, right? Well, going from an office to a restaurant. Yeah, when was that? And so, okay, I'm going from an office to a restaurant. So I just changed occupants from a B to an A2. Well, let's see. Well, we're going to have them start tearing apart all the walls and make sure the thermal envelope's up to snuff. All the glazing will get replaced. Roof will get redone. Kind of what it says. Doesn't give you a lot of slack. Yeah, it gives you a little bit of lighting stuff here. So it's, hey, if I may not change occupancy, right? But the use changes based on the interior lighting requirements. Yeah, Mona, this goes on. You'll be able to get this from the website in the recording. The recording will be there, and Eric can put the link back up there for you. Yeah, once the recordings, you'll be able to get the whole deal. Yeah, so interior or exterior lighting there, whether it's space by space or building. Here, oh yeah, we went over the change. Yeah, we'll go back to the fenestration pieces. 30 no and additional fenestration, we're going to go back to 40241. They're exempt from it. So if we're exceeding 30% and we're not adding any new windows, we don't have to go back to 40241. Maybe that's a key. So yeah, it may not comply, but I'm not making it any worse, so we're good. Start to make it worse, not good. Here, so we're cutting them the same kind of slack here that we cut them when we did unconditioned to conditioned space. Same exact piece. Okay. Cuts you some slack on the comm check and that. And then how does it work in everyday life? Just one really quick piece here. We got a few minutes. Hey, it's basically what? Alteration. You got a shell building. And they're now going to do a tenant finish. As far as the energy code is concerned, it's an alteration because in theory, we've already done the thermal envelope. If there's one thing, there you go. There's a helpline. Mona and Erica can help you with the link to the website itself where you can get the recordings. So here, probably the biggest thing is to stress that is that the thermal envelope has got to have already been done, right? There you go. Thanks, Erica, for that. Because if it's not done at the shell building, you're out of luck. You're never going to get there. Okay. Yeah. So does it, yeah. Do you have cavity insulation? Well, it never, yeah. Fill the cavities. Right. Any glazing, any replacement glazing, it's going to be just like new. Okay. But we're saying that whatever's there is good, because it theoretically complied, right? Any new mechanical system is going to go right through. We talked about that. It's all going to be new generally. Generally speaking, the RTUs might get placed up here during the shell, but certainly all the HVAC design, load calcs, all the duct work, that kind of thing will be part of the tenant finish. Power and lighting, that's almost always, right? Almost always the case, lighting. And just kind of, is it, better, worse? We meet in the intent of what's happening, and we don't want to put the, square peg into round hole type of thing, because everything's different. So that's it. That's what I got. Right on time. Goodness sakes, got a few minutes. So good questions. This is me, Gil Rossmiller at Chumscoda. Oh, it's not .net. It's .com. Oh, that's Gil going back to my old email address. So it's correct, except for it's .com. Oh.
Well, thanks, Gil. It was a great presentation. It sounds like folks took a lot from it. So
there we go.
Perfect. So yeah, well, Gil and I will stay on the line until 1 here. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand or type in the chat, whatever works.
Yeah, you're very welcome, folks. Anytime, send me an email. Happy to answer questions just for fun.